We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Nick. Nick heard us describing using a single subwoofer output to feed two subwoofers and then adjusting the phase knob on one subwoofer to get the uniform bass across all the seats. In fact, you just heard us describe it again because we just talked about it.
That's right.
Nick tried to imagine himself doing this procedure and figured there's no way he'd remember exactly which phase setting created exactly which peaks and dips at exactly which frequencies using just his ears and a bass sweep. So, wouldn't it be better to get a measurement microphone and use Room EQ Wizard to measure and plot each location and phase setting? That way you could visually compare and find the most uniform response across all seats, correct?
You are correct.
Yes, you're right. Go on.
Yeah. I just want to go back to the original point, though, which was we were reticent to have mentioned the marked bass sweep the last time we talked about this. So in this very podcast earlier, I mentioned that the marked bass sweep really does help because you want to be able to say, oh, okay, in this seat with this setting, I noticed there's a hump between 60 and 70 and a dip between 40 and 50. Now I know that, all right? So now I go and sit in my seat to the left, and I go, oh, I still hear a hump between 60 and 70. I still hear a dip between 40 and 50. But then I sit in my seat to the right, and I go, oh, over here I hear a dip between 60 and 70 and a hump between 40 and 50. Uh-oh, that's not the best setting, right? Because I have complete non-uniformity. So all we're looking for is to find a setting that gives you pretty good uniformity. And most people have maybe 3 to 5 seats that they care about. So you sit in each of those 3 to 5 seats, and you use a marked bass sweep, and it's not too difficult to go, okay, I know where the humps and dips are, generally, and do they remain in those same spots when I go sit in my other 3 to 5 seats? So it's not too bad just doing it by ear.
No. He asked, could you run Odyssey with just one subwoofer, get its distance setting, then run the Odyssey a second time with just the second subwoofer and get that distance setting, and then use the difference between the two settings, the two distance settings, to figure out the distance in the phase that you ought to use? No, that totally doesn't work, dude.
I mean, in a way, that's how sub-EQHT functions, by setting the two distances independently and then EQing together.
That's yes, but that's not what we're doing here. What we're doing here is you have non-optimal subwoofer placement. Okay, so what we're trying to do is, by using the phase knob on one of them, is to change virtually, I guess, hypothetically, I guess, I don't really know what the right word is, change how the bass is interacting with itself in the room.
Yeah, we're changing the wave pattern by altering the timing of when they're firing.
And if you think about it this way, what you're doing is virtually moving that sub or the sub around the room. By changing its phase, it's now seeming like it's either closer or further away than it was before. And by doing that, you are tricking the bass into interacting in different ways. You're not really tricking it. I mean, it's all science. But if you think about that, because, okay, if just say the subs are both 5 feet apart, the bass wave comes towards you, it hits you at exactly the same time. Now you take one sub and move it an extra 5 feet. So now one sub is 5 feet away from you, one sub is 10 feet away from you. The bass wave from the first sub hits you. The second wave takes twice as long because it's twice as far away. Okay? Or you can leave both subs exactly where they were at 5 feet away. Change the phase knob so that sub is now creating that bass wave a little bit later. Therefore, it seems like it's further away from you than it actually is. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Therefore, the interactions with the bass are happening at different places in the room, giving you the option or the ability to have the same interactions happening at all of the seats.
Yeah, what you're talking about here with getting the distance for one of them, then getting the distance for the other one, and then using that to calculate where the phase should be. That would be time aligning the subwoofers, which we got to say, like Gene over at Audioholics, he is an advocate for time aligning the subwoofers. Chris Kyriakakis at Odyssey has been an advocate for time aligning the subwoofers, and sometimes it does work, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Practically speaking, time aligning your subwoofers doesn't always work out. Works pretty darn well if you have a rectangular room. Got to say that. Works out very nicely if you have a rectangular room. Most of the time, when we're talking about using this phase adjustment method to get uniform bass, it's because you don't have a rectangular room. Maybe you have a rectangular room, but it's got a permanent opening. It's not a rectangle anymore. So the time alignment thing theoretically and practically does work really nicely in a rectangular room. Practically speaking, doesn't always work out so well in real life. So that's why we prefer the trial and error method of adjusting the phase knob.
That's right. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.